Hey, good afternoon. Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer, functional aesthetics EC, helping average guys build muscle, shed fat, and perform better in their lives inside and outside the gym. So I want to share a little bit of a story with you today from a conversation I had with a gentleman earlier this week that may be useful for yourself. You may have had the same questions that this guy had, so I'm going to share his question and my response to that question. And so this guy said, this guy is 46 years old and hasn't spent a lot of time in the gym in his life. I guess you would characterize him as what you say, like a skinny fat sort of guy, right? So he has, like sometimes you'll have guys that, they're fat, but they also have a lot of muscle as well, right? And then you'll have guys that perhaps were thin most of their life, but then, maybe their lifestyle, they spent a lot of time, drinking, not really doing much exercise at all. And so as they got older, they maintained that thinness in their arms and legs, but then their belly got bigger. And this is exactly what he described to me. He's like, I got a bigger belly, I got thin arms, thin legs, and my goal is, though, that I actually want to get bigger. He's like, ultimately I want to be about 200 pounds. I'm starting off at 185 pounds, and he's like 5'10" or whatever. And he says, I've been working out for about a month now, and I dropped down to 171 pounds after a month of consistent exercise. And he's like, this is not really what I was expecting, but then he went on to say that he was also training 6 days a week as well. And so right off the bat, a couple things were coming to my mind as to some common themes that I'm seeing here with a lot of guys and just people in general. So first and foremost, the quick fix mentality, right? So exercising 6 days a week is not necessarily a bad thing, or I would say you should exercise every day, right? But strength training 6 days a week is definitely not a good idea for a beginner, but it makes sense. It kind of goes in line with our psychology, and I admit I've done this in the past as well. As a lot of you guys listening to this know that, after being a high school for, most of my, early years through school, I ended up, getting really sick, losing about 30 pounds of muscle mass. And when I was trying to build myself back up from that, I was desperate to get back to where I was as quickly as possible. And so in the process of doing that, I made a lot of mistakes, whether it came to diet, to exercise, different things like that, trying to get results faster. And we can see that this works all the time in marketing and stuff as well, right? Whether it's like the MLM companies, that are selling you the rapid weight loss, or it's the shakes and the powders and the cleanses and the juice fasts and all this different kinds of stuff that to help you get the results you're looking for right now. Like, you can lose 30 pounds in a month. And if you are morbidly obese, maybe that's going to be fine, right? But for your average person, losing a pound a day is not a healthy thing to do. And even with this guy, he said he went from 185 down to 171 pounds in about a month's time. And a lot of that is probably a mix of like water weight as well. But for a healthy individual, about 2 pounds per week is about the max that you want to lose weight to avoid the possibility of losing muscle. But of course, we look at it right away and we're like, man, I want to lose weight really, really fast, right? And so that's appealing to us. Same thing with, going out there and exercising, starting to go hit the gym 6 days a week in your first month back to the gym. It's that quick fix mentality, which is just kind of more or less if you can call it this, healthy version of the same mentality that got you out of shape, right? It's wanting that quick fix, wanting that quick dopamine hit, the quick pleasure, the quick satisfaction that you get from, you know, having that, you know, pizza, you know, sitting there, you know, playing the video games, watching the football game, not skipping the workout, or skipping the workout to begin with, drinking the alcohol, doing a little bit too much of those things, because initially they feel good and they give you that quick fix right away. And so all of a sudden you wake up, you know, years down the line, and you're not liking the way your body looks, you're not liking the way your body feels. And so you take that same mentality though, and you apply it to your fitness, and you start doing extreme fitness stuff and applying, you know, this extreme methodology. And you might be saying, well, you know, yeah, David Goggins, you know, he did all that kind of stuff. He went and he ran a 100-mile race, and he didn't prepare for it at all, you know. Well, first and foremost, he was moderately prepared for that, being that he was a Navy SEAL, and the bare minimum that you have to do just for physical fitness stuff in the SEALs is going to keep you at a moderate level of fitness. He was also doing powerlifting and stuff. If you see the photograph of him when he was running the thing, he looks like a, you know, a fitness model. He's got bulging muscles. He's got probably single-digit body fat when he's doing this thing and everything, but he had not trained for that. And even doing this, it almost killed him, like literally almost killed him. He was almost, you know, his bodily functions were shutting down. So by his own admission, he will even tell you too, I don't do this for my health. I don't do this to look better. I don't do this to be a elite, you know, endurance athlete. I do it specifically to put calluses on my mind and stuff. And so if you're dealing with a lot of trauma or something, or you're in that situation where you have to, you know, do or die, fight or flight, that kind of thing, that can, it's comforting to know that you're a lot harder to kill than you think. But if you think that that is going to be what is going to get you a great physique or to be really healthy, you're sadly mistaken. I mean, there was years ago, there was actually a former pro football player turned fitness model, and he talked about how he would just absolutely destroy himself on leg day simply for the mental toughness that it would give him coming out of the gym, you know, because anything else that he did in his day after that, in his business or anything like that, would be a walk in the park compared to what he had put himself through in the gym. But he's like, to tell you the truth, he's like, I've been around in this fitness thing a long time. He's like, I know how to train. He's like, if I wanted to look like a fitness model, I could actually get by on a lot less training. It would be better for my body. My physique would look better, but I do this for that mental aspect of it, right? So there's that thing, right? And so the next piece, I guess, was, and there was one other thing that I was going to insert in here, but kind of slipped my mind. Maybe I'll remember it later on in the video. So we'll just hop right into the advice that I was going to give him, because he said that he wants to both get definition, so he wants to have muscle definition, and he wants to build muscle. So he was 185, he's down to 171, and he wants to get up to 200 pounds, but also get more definition at the same time. So this is very unlikely, I mean, to happen, right? If you are at, you know, so the first piece of advice that I gave him was you need to be, you know, prioritizing one goal at a time. If you are above 15% body fat, and maybe more like 20% body fat, and you decide that you want to, you know, lose that weight and also build muscle at the same time, it is definitely possible to do that, right? And in fact, that's what I recommend. I don't recommend trying to lose the weight first and then go and build up some muscle. If you're above 20% body fat, use that fat to help fuel the growth of your muscles, because it is 100% possible for you to build lean muscle and shed body fat at the same time, and it's going to have this trifecta effect. Essentially, because anytime you diet, you reduce your calorie intake, you're going to be slowing down your metabolism, right? But if you increase lean muscle mass at the same time and focus on building muscle, you're going to be increasing metabolic rate, and you're going to be shedding the fat at the same time, help you to maintain that base metabolic rate. It's also going to allow you to eat more food as well, which will the process of digesting food requires energy to do that as well. So all these three things, digesting food, increase lean muscle mass, and then the process of exercising itself, are all going to work to increase rather than decrease your muscle mass. But in this guy's scenario, when you're not going to add 30 pounds of muscle and also get more ripped at the same time you're doing that, unless you want to take years and years and years to do that and go very, very slow. You want to instead be focusing on one goal, and the first one would be make sure that before he starts trying to bulk up and add more muscles, make sure you're down to at least 10% body fat or even below that, because it's going to make it easier for your body to rebound and add any weight that it gains is going to be more likely to be lean tissue rather than fat tissue. And so even if your primary goal is just to build muscle, if you try to build more muscle, and you have too much body fat already, if you continue to increase your body fat, it's going to increase your estrogen levels, because fat produces more estrogen, which in turn produces more fat, which in turn produces more estrogen. This is a vicious cycle. So getting you down into a nice athletic body fat percentage range, maybe even down in those single digits, and then trying to start building up from there. And then the other one was, as I said before, start out with exercise every day, right? Because that's good for your health. You should be exercising every day, but train. So specifically, training to, and this goes into the third point, which is progressive overload, right? So, which I'll touch on in a minute, but having an actual goal for your workout, being like, I'm going to hit this amount of reps with this amount of weight, and I'm trying to be a little bit better than I was before. Specifically training, start out with something more moderate, like 2 to 4 days a week of strength training, and actually if you're, your first month of training, I would say 2, maybe 3 days, see how your body's responding to that, because doing more is not going to make you get better, right? If your body hasn't adapted to that, years ago when I was first getting into this, there would be guys and they'd be like, well, I'm going to go follow Arnold Schwarzenegger's routine, or I'm going to follow Ronnie Coleman's routine because he got really jacked doing that routine. And it's like, well, yeah, but he'd already, by the time he was doing that routine, he'd been training for like a decade, right? When he got to there. So he had a lot of built up resilience in his body. And so doing more is actually going to break your body down, not build your body up. And then, so that third point again is the progressive overload. Have a plan of what you're doing, right? Make sure you are not just winging it. Don't just start doing like an hour of exercise every single day and just trying to burn as many calories as possible, or drastically reducing your calorie intake, or just hacking out full, macronutrient groups or anything like that. Yeah, it'll help you to make some rapid weight loss. We've all seen the guys who do wrestling in school, like high school, college and stuff, and you can drop weight really fast, but then as soon as that's over, you gain that weight all back over again, right? And then, because it's not a sustainable thing. You want to be strategic about it, put that thing in place, and then ratchet it down slowly over time. And so exercise, increasing it, is only as good as your ability to recover from it. So if you're not able to recover from that exercise, then it's not doing you any good to add more of it. So if you're getting stronger every time you go to the gym, or you're able to do more reps, or you're able to run farther, or you're able to run faster, then you're probably on the right track. But if you start going backwards, it's time to reassess and say, okay, am I not eating enough? Am I training too much? Am I not getting enough sleep? What is the scenario here? And be strategic about how you're doing that. And then lastly, the thing that I would focus on as well is, in the first, couple of months, it is useful to track your calories and make sure you're getting those balanced macros and stuff in place, because it helps to give you an idea of what your body actually needs, and it helps to ingrain those habits. And then after a while, you can just kind of ballpark it. But what I've actually found in my over 17 years of doing this stuff in all kinds of environments, all kinds of different jobs, crazy workout hours, just all over the board, what I've actually found is that focusing on protein first, focus on the protein first, and then And the reason for this, and it doesn't matter if you're trying to bulk up and get bigger or if you're trying to get leaner like this guy, right? So the reason why you focus on that protein first is to ensure that you're getting the minimum amount of protein you need to sustain or build more muscle. So if you eat carbohydrates first and you're not getting enough calories, then you will have the energy to go and do more working out, do more exercising, but you will end up getting smaller. And because you don't have enough protein, because you're getting carbs and fats instead of the protein, what will happen is you will just get smaller. So your fat stores will get smaller, your muscle size will get smaller as well, and it just end up as a weaker, smaller version of yourself. Now, if you flip that around and you prioritize protein, you eat the protein first and you fill up on that first, what will happen is if you don't take in enough carbs and fat, well, then your workouts might suffer, right? And you might slow down, you might bonk faster, right? But you won't lose muscle mass. And as a result, if you bonk, if you run out of energy sooner, you will end up and you'll keep on getting leaner and leaner, right? So, and you'll keep on getting leaner and leaner, right? And so that's why you want to prioritize that protein. And then once you get down to maybe if you're in like single digit body fat, right, and you've been going back and forth like this, and you just let your body dictate how much carbs and fats you should eat after you eat the protein, right? Because if you eat your carbs and fats first, you can actually double the amount of carbohydrates that you have at one meal, and what that'll do is spike your blood glucose and help you to feel more hungry so that you can fit in more meals later on, okay? And so that should really help you out. Yeah, so that's all I had for you today. Just to recap is that, you know, don't go to the extremes. Have a plan for what you're doing. Don't just randomly crank up the amount of exercise you're doing, or randomly, you know, drop down on the amount of calories you're eating, or cut out entire food groups and stuff. It works in the short term, but in the long term, it's not a sustainable approach. And then always prioritize your protein, right? Make sure that that is the first thing that you eat at every meal, and then just listen to your body. If your body's like, hey, I still need something else, then add in some, you know, starchy carbs, potatoes, rice, vegetables, those kind of, or, you know, and also add the vegetables in there too, right? And then also be making sure you get enough fat too. I wouldn't ever go below, you know, 20% of your calories from fat, unless, of course, you're doing a super high volume of training that requires you to get a lot of carbohydrates in your diet. Then maybe you can go as low as 10%. But hopefully this is helpful for you guys in giving you a little bit of insights into the proper way to achieve your muscle building and your fat loss goals. And we'll see you all next weekend for more health and fitness information.